Welcome everyone to another smoking room. We heard such great things about the last one. We're going to do another. I guess we're calling them magical hats now. My requests for a new name for it haven't been taken up, so we're just going to call it magical hats and stop pretending like we're not just stealing someone else's content. I'm Horsefry. I'm joined by
Anonymous. I haven't been on an Umineko episode in a while, but I'm having an Umineko renaissance right now, so I really want to talk about it.
Welcome.
As Corey.
I'm Kyle.
And me, Lurf.
And so, yeah, it's the same rules as last time. We're just going to have a topic for discussion. And, 4 out of 5 of us are going to tell you the truth. But one of us is a duplicitous liar. And will get ejected out of the airlock once we sniff them out. Today's topic.
Also, Umineko spoilers, right?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
I have full spoilers.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of hard to talk about it without
For
it.
both the manga
Yeah.
and the VN.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, manga spoilers, totally.
and manga and VN. I think just Umineko.
Yeah.
Not Ciconia or Higurashi.
Yeah.
And also spoilers for Higurashi and Ciconia, because I fucked up later on.
I said
God, I
one
hope
thing
not
in my notes
Ciconia.
about Higurashi, but it's vague enough.
Yeah. So the topic for discussion today is, should Ryukishi have revealed the truth at the end of Umineko?
There is a premise there that I think we need to define first, which is our confession, or whatever, is that the truth?
Confessions of the Golden Witch? Or
Yeah.
literally the story, our confession?
Is the thing we read for this today the truth?
So yeah, I mean, I wanted to leave it vague so that you could either approach it as like, should Ryukishi have like revealed the truth at the end of the VN, or you could also interpret it as, was it the right thing to do to put Confession of the Golden Witch in the manga? And I'm happy with either interpretation. Whatever people want to. Does anyone want to go first in particular?
I'd be willing to if no one else wants to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright. So, basically, I think that... Man, that speech class in high school did not do me any favor now. Anyway. I think that revealing it in the VN, would have not been up to the themes of the VN, but I think the manga came out long enough after the VN that I think giving people who had been theorizing about Umineko for that long, a sense of closure about, yes, this is the truth. You can rest now. Is ultimately the right play, because you can just avoid the manga if you don't want to know the truth, if you want to just keep thinking about it forever. It's hard if you're discussing it with other people like we are, but no one knows Umineko. No. Also, I think there's a lot of small details. When I say the truth, I'm specifically talking about the chapters of Confessions of the Golden Witch, of Saya's backstory, because that's the part I think that adds the most out of the manga that I've read, because actually having Saya's unfiltered first-hand retelling of the events instead of Claire's retelling of it in EP7 adds a lot, and there are some things that I don't think you would even necessarily be able to reasonably pick up on, how Beatrice is weak against mirrors because they remind Sayo how she really is. That I don't remember that being in the VN at all.
It is. It's a lot in the VN.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well,
It's more subtle, but
subtle.
It's definitely there, especially in EP6.
Yeah, definitely a lot of this is in the VN, but it's a lot
It
more
is.
subtle, a lot more kind of metaphorical.
You gotta work for it.
You gotta work for it, and I think that is valuable. But also, then we could just have. I do kind of like the idea. I'm on the fence of my opinion, but I do believe it. Obviously, I'm Kruger.
Kyle's hot take. I'm not sure. More research is required.
It is a hot take.
I mean, I sort of agree. I think that, following all of the backlash that came out after EP8 in Japan, Ryukishi sort of had like a obligation to reveal the answers in the manga because, I mean, like, people, I don't know, people were upset. It's the obligation of the author.
That's an interesting take.
I think something similar as well. I think what I was going to say is I think Ryukishi pretty much did the best he could. I agree with him not putting it at the end of the VN, and I agree with him putting it at the end of the manga. I think the reason is slightly different though. Like, I think the VN is perfect the way it is, and he was right not to put anything explicit. And I don't think him putting Confession of the Golden Witch at the end of the manga was like a reaction to backlash from the VN. I think it just makes sense for the media. I think the manga is like a way faster way to read Umineko, and it's like any time you shave off of reading Umineko is like information you're not like absorbing. Like even just even if it's still shown, I think the manga's like does a really good job of showing everything, but you really need time for that information to sit on your brain and soak in, and the manga just being a faster read just means you spend less time soaking, and then it just kind of works for the media to have Umineko be a little bit more of a classic murder mystery where you get the solution in the drawing room, if you will, where the culprit confesses. That was my take.
Alright, I think that leaves two of us.
Yeah.
I can go next, because I admittedly very similar to especially what Horsefry and Kyle said. It is, because Umineko is kind of split into two sides, this kind of highly symbolic story, very metaphorical, but also the side where it is also a traditional mystery at the end of the day. And, I will actually say how I went about doing this was, originally when I first read Umineko, I was absolutely, it seems counterintuitive. I read the visual novel and I was absolutely like, oh, I want a definitive answer. So I actually went and instantly read the manga. And at the time I was very happy I got a definitive answer, but looking back on it, I wonder, like, I don't know, I feel like if you're a visual novel reader, you might want to just kind of let that sit, really think on it, because I feel like, what we were saying about how, the kind of themes in Umineko, I feel like just going there and, tearing open the cat box and looking inside just because you want to find the answer. I don't know if that's exactly the right way to go about doing it. I mean, not that there's a right and wrong way, but, just from my perspective, like, I think you really need to, Umineko is a traditional mystery, but I don't think it's a mystery first, and, I mean, without love it cannot be seen, so, I think it's a lot more important to kind of take some time and analyze it yourself if you're capable of that. I know it can be, this is very heavy media to analyze, and at the time I was not super capable of doing it. I think now I am, that's why I'm happy to come back here, but, so I guess my answer boils down to, it varies on the person, but I kind of lean towards, I almost wish he hadn't revealed it, because, I like the idea of, just really analyzing the visual novel and, coming up with all these different theories, but, is in the cat box. You never know what's in the cat box without Ryukishi just opening it and showing you what's inside. That also makes sense if you're a manga-only reader. You're missing a lot of what's in the visual novel.
Yeah, I can get behind most of what you said there.
I have some questions, almost more because I was really interested in what you're saying than trying to find out if you're lying. But yeah, let's let Lurf do do theirs first, and then we'll get into cross-examination.
Yeah.
How do I elaborate on my feelings about this?
Yeah, I had a very hard
such
time
like a-
putting it into words.
It's such cause let it be clear, I'm glad that confessions exist, because while it feels incredibly voyeuristic and uncomfortable to look at the real truth of the culprit and what was actually going on through their head and how they were feeling and stuff, and it's very fascinating to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that being given a concrete answer goes against the core themes of Umineko as a whole, and it upsets me a little bit that the manga readers miss that point entirely, because the manga fails to iterate that point to them. Because, like, that's the whole point of Angie's journey, you know? Like, she's learning that it's okay she doesn't have the truth, and she can move on, and she can find a belief that makes her happy, so she doesn't have to wallow in this misery, because you can't know everything. And sometimes knowing won't even make you happy. Sometimes you have to find your own happiness in your own life. And, just, you know, telling you the truth, one, goes against Angie's whole character arc, but it also goes against the whole without love it cannot be seen thing, and understanding Sayo, because the reward for understanding Umineko and reading the visual novel and, like, truly getting it is that you know the answer, you figure it out, you understand the culprit. But in the manga, you don't need love, because they just show it to you. They're like, here you go. They're passing out free love vouchers.
Without love, it costs a ridiculous amount of money.
But, like, I also understand that the manga is much more difficult to theorize on, because it is such a quick read, so I can understand why it's there. I also disagree with a lot of the closed room truths in the manga because of some contradictions.
The manga in general, I
that's
feel
part
like,
of it.
the manga's just the
we could-
manga.
We could probably have an entire episode just analyzing kind of
absolutely.
between the manga and the VN.
We could. But that's...
Like comparing the answers to what happens in the VN, because Lurf, you bring up a very good point.
Yeah, the contradictions also get me. So... Plus, I think, like, part of the fun of Umineko is getting to come up with your own unique interpretation of stuff as well, because no one, like, 100% has the same exact truth or interpretation of things as you, and then you see the manga arc, and it's like, whoop, now we all have the same interpretation.
I mean, there's
because
also
we know
some,
what
like,
the truth is.
some missing information in the explanation of, like, I just thought of this now, but, like, what if instead of Sayo's confession, we got Genji's confession? Wouldn't that have been based?
Ooh.
That would have been really big.
Genji's gay
Genji just
confession.
needs more screen time. Like,
Yeah, we did get some of it, I think.
it feels legitimately wild to look at the 140-hour VN and say a character needs more screen time.
I would love to hear from
Yeah.
from Genji about how he's gay and suicidal. I would really want to know more about that.
Umineko Kumasawa's confession.
we were a little robbed of Genji, weren't we?
Yeah.
Little robbed
Yeah.
of Genji, little robbed of Nanjo too. I mean, I feel like if you really, like, look at them, especially in their scenes with Kinzo, when they're alone together, you can get, like, a lot out of them, but you actually, like, really have to dig for it.
Yeah, I was that guy when reading the VN. I was like, I want to see more Nanjo. Like, this guy's really interesting to me because he's kind of like, he's not the outsider in the same sense as, like, Goda is kind of a complete outsider to this, but, you know, he's not exactly a servant, he's not a family member either, You're just Kinzo's bro, Kinzo's doctor bro.
Yeah, like you can kind of see how we're kind of going off topic here. I think Genji could be its own smoking room, but you can kind of see how
Yeah.
like
Oopsies.
okay,
Oh,
yeah,
we should talk about
I'll
this.
save what I was going to say for
Later.
another time.
Yeah.
We should get back on topic. Yeah, I was very interested in what you said, Anon, about your experience with Umineko, because I read the manga first, so like in a lot of ways it was similar. Like, I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I just like it was just the next chapter, so I didn't know it was coming, and the solution was there. But I didn't even realize there was an option to not see the solution. You know, like, and it wasn't till I read the VN a few years later that I was able to see what people saw the first time Umineko came out, and like I remember thinking, like, reading the VN, like, damn, like there's a lot more here, I feel like, than the manga. And I don't think that's true. I think it's just that it's a lot easier to pick things up and let it sit on your brain when it's given to you in a text format, like a VN. And like a manga, like the same information that will be like a suspicious looking sentence is like a panel in the manga, and like if you're just kind of scrolling on your computer, like it's like really easy to miss that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know that was a question, but
no, yeah. I mean, I can elaborate a little more on my experience, because I hadn't looked back on it until we came up with this topic, and I was thinking like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that, but I mean, yeah, at the time I was very much going into Umineko kind of. I had these two sides of myself that were split. I had the side that was like, you know, I love the symbolism, I love these metaphors, I want to just dive into these, you know, really try and analyze these characters, try and understand them, understand the themes behind Umineko. Then I had this other side that was just like, man, how'd they do that? How did they murder this person? I mean, how did they make these locked rooms? So that side of myself kind of overcame the other side when I finished the VN, because, you know, I let it sit for about a week, because that was very heavy. I had to think on that for a while, but then I dove into all the answers, and yeah, at the time I was pretty content with that, because I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I'm glad I kind of have like this behind the scenes look. But now looking back on it after we were talking about this topic, you know, pretty much exactly what Lair said. I feel like that was maybe, you know, like it's kind of like the magic versus truth ending. Like, magic versus trick. You choose. It's like, I mean, I did choose magic originally, but trick, you know, that's like all about just saying, you know, away with the, like, magic, away with the metaphors, the symbolism. I want to rip open the cat box, and I just want to accept the truth for whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like reading Confession is something that kind of, it doesn't necessarily mark like the end of your time with Umineko, but it does kind of feel that way, that like you can no longer just be like, no, I could be missing something. We could theorize more about this, possibly forever. And it's like a very like romantic idea of Ryukishi just never releasing the truth. But I feel like a lot of people are not as a lot of people are as terminally obsessed with this VN as we are, but some people want closure after a while. Like,
yeah, and some people aren't as into the whole like deep analysis. They like just want to like know the silly answer to the silly mystery.
Yeah, which, I mean, you know, I do get. I mean, I think
it's missing the point of the story.
I was gonna say, I think
Yeah.
you're missing a lot from Umineko if, you know, you're just dissecting this and saying, I need to solve this mystery.
right.
It's, I mean, it's like the,
Okay, Erica.
yeah, Erica. It is literally, that's Erica's role in that. Like, she does not see the love. She just wants to dissect. She wants to rip the cat box open.
so
The juxtaposition. Oh, go ahead.
okay, I'll go first. I was just gonna say I agree to an extent, what you're saying, but I think, like, if I imagine a reality in which the manga just never got printed, you'd be saying, like, it makes sense for Yukishi to release, like, an expansion to the VN that, like, just explains everything. I don't think that would be worth it.
Yeah, no.
I think the VN,
I don't think that's
the way the
true.
VN is, like, if you want closure, you just go to r/Umineko and ask someone to spoil it for you. Like, that's the only way that
Yeah.
like makes sense for the VN, I think. I was also thinking about like the difference between my experience reading the manga versus the VN. Like a lot of the problems I would have had if I was trying to solve the manga. But it's a lot harder to remember things. Like, you get to EP6 and you're like, what was EP1 about? Like, you don't remember any of the Twilights. Like, whereas the VN, and maybe it was because I was reading it a second time, but like I could definitely remember like most of the Twilights from the previous EPs, even.
Well, you spend more time on them in the VN, so.
But also, like, I think text is easier to read, like, and remember. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can remember the formulations of things because it's written in text rather than just shown as a picture of a locked door. Like, that's really hard to remember, even like a day later. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted you as well.
No. I think what you're saying made me get a whole bunch of new ideas, but I'm not going to say those ideas because I have an argument in favor of our confession of those chapters being included now. So juxtaposition-wise, it makes sense why this is included in the manga, because these chapters are included right after Angie reads the what's it called? Ava's diary. And it's sort of like, this is the point of no return. This is the point where if you are reading the manga, this is Ava's diary. This is the truth. And, you know, it's sort of, you are Angie in that moment.
Yeah, I get what you meant. Like,
reading the truth.
I guess so. My brain is like, why does Ava have Sayo's tragic backstory in her
Oh,
diary?
completely does not make sense. And it doesn't make sense thematically why, when she reads Ava's journal of what happens on that day, that she gets Sayo's backstory. But I think thematically as a reader, you know, when Angie is facing the truth of the situation and is unable to go back from that reality, we too as readers are unable to turn away from the truth of the narrative. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying maybe that's what the manga's doing.
I think right after she like falls from the like tower in the City of Books, it goes to the Toya stuff, like in the VN, and then it has Ikuko, and she has Confession. I don't think Confession is in Ava's diary.
But doesn't in the meta world, aren't they stealing the lock book to open in the meta world?
Yes.
And
I don't think Angie learns anything about Sayo though.
I think because in the immediate next chapter after our confessions, Beatrice says to Angie, "So you learned the truth."
Yeah, about Rokkenjima Prime.
Yeah, and then she's like, blame it on me instead.
Yeah.
You know?
And then she's like, so it's just a freaking witch all along. I guess there was no point. And then Beatrice is like, I'm talking to you as the human culprit right now. And it has like Sayo like as the like backside of Beatrice. It like very much implies that Angie cannot see her.
Yeah, I just think like as presentation wise for the reader, especially if you're a manga only, that gets confusing because it's like, okay, Angie learns the truth. We get confession. We get Sayo's backstory. She has a really touching conversation with the culprit. And you assume that, well, Angie gets it now. And I think honestly, the presentation there kind of sucks because it's like, okay, but Angie didn't learn understanding Sayo. Angie was handed this, at least in the context of like how you're reading it. That's how it seems to be presented.
Yes.
Even if that isn't the case, it's just like, that's damn. Damn. Imagine Sayo's upset when she learns that someone just fucking told Angie what was up with her.
You could also see it as like because she learns the truth of Prime and jumps from the City of Books, and then you get Confession. So you could see it as like she's got a lot of time in in Oblivion to think over everything, and she comes to the like because that's what Battler did. Battler just figured it out from EP5 onwards. So like maybe Angie did the same thing. Like there's no
Yeah.
indication necessarily that our confession was, or does it say? I can't remember. I've got it on the shelf here. I could open it up and have a look. Does it say that like? Does Sayo say at the end, "I'm going to put this in a bottle and put it in the sea so that someone will find out"? I don't think it does, but it might.
She says
In the
She
does
in the
put it in
manga,
a
it's
bottle.
implied that Ikugo and Toya have
Right.
the confession bottle, which is how they're able to write this stuff, which I personally disagree with as a VN reader.
Yeah.
I think Toya found out while rediscovering who he was and
Yeah,
Battler's
yeah,
memories and stuff,
definitely.
and that's what EP 5, 6, and 7 were all about.
Yeah.
The manga, I have so many feelings about the way the manga handles Battler and Toya.
Yeah. My hot take, the manga's bad. that's my hottest of takes.
It's I mean that's
The EP8 manga's pretty good. There's like stuff in it I really like, but I don't like the reveal of the truth at all.
yeah. I feel like I mean that is the thing. I can't remember. Did you guys at some point do an episode over like what would I don't know. This might have just been an ideas, but like how would we make an Umineko anime adaptation? Was that an episode,
that
or was
happened.
that just an idea floating around?
That was an episode.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is the thing with just any adaptation of Umineko. I'm like, how can you adapt Umineko in any form other than the visual novel? Like, without it,
The stage play.
the stage
True.
play. Oh yeah,
Even the stage player is going to run into this problem eventually, right? Like at the moment, it's just EP1, and it's just like it's people who've read Umineko who are enjoying it. I think, well, hopefully someone who hasn't read Umineko watched it and enjoyed it and is going to read Umineko now. But I would say the most part, the audience is people who've already read it.
Right.
Like it's going to run into that problem when it gets to EP8. It's like it is going to be a question like, do we include a confession, or do we just leave it? And the people who've been watching all 8 stage plays are going to be like, okay, so who did it?
Do we have confirmation they're doing more?
Pretty sure they're only doing 4 stage plays, if I remember right. I don't know if they're condensing it or what.
Yeah, I guess I was meaning like if they adapted the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, then that incentive to read the VN.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say. I mean, what the manga did give us. I'll post this in the secret. Oh, this is the smoking room. Whoops. I'll post this in the smoking room. I don't know if you guys saw this on the fan server, but I found this frame in the manga.
Oh yes.
Oh, I love that,
Yes.
that manga frame.
I love how the manga just takes panels and like recontextualizes them for skits. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It is. Listen, when I said the manga was bad, I don't mean that like purely objectively. I just meant in the way it handles the reveals. 'Cause I do love Confession and how it's presented, just like in the context of everything else around it. I'm like, I mean, we maybe shouldn't have, but I do love Confession. I just am like, I'm so conflicted about it. Like, I feel like I shouldn't enjoy Confession, so it makes it.
Oh yeah,
upset.
exactly. I mean, that's what I mean. Like the kind of logic side of myself. It's like, oh, this is so cool to read Confession. But then the more emotional side is like, but am I just kind of stepping on the message by Umineko, on the themes?
Yeah, because when I finished Umineko, and actually around I think like I saw someone say like after EP7 Confessions was like required reading,
Oh.
and I was like, oh shit, okay.
Who told you
And
that?
I've regretted reading it like ever since.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like I wish I had the time to sit with Umineko and decide whether or not I wanted to see the truth, but instead I was just like, oh, well, I guess I should see Confessions because I went through EP7 and
Yeah.
I didn't see much, and then I didn't even get Angie's whole arc about like, it's okay not to know the
Yeah,
truth, and I was like,
yeah.
well, shit.
That's right.
Oh, I
I
am-
know too
No,
much.
that's required reading, apparently.
I am. Wow, that is unfortunate. I'm glad at the very least. I mean, I did read Confessions, like I said, about a week
Yeah.
after I finished the Umineko visual novel, but I could not imagine reading it right after episode 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be so confusing too. Like, you've just had Burn be like, oh yeah, all that shit you were doing, fuck that, fuck 7 EPs worth of plot development. This is what happened in Red, and then you're like, what? And then to go straight into confessions from there, that would be even harder. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually do have a question for all of you. Which ending? Well, what was the first ending you guys got, if you remember, in the visual novel?
Magic.
So
Magic. Did we all get magic?
So the first time I played, I was watching a YouTube playlist, so they chose the trick ending first, but I chose the magic ending when prompted.
I believe the manga shows the trick ending first. So I was a manga first reader.
It does.
And so
okay.
It does.
So both of you saw Trick first, but you
probably
didn't
because
have
it's
a
the
say.
shorter one.
Angie chooses the trick one and then immediately regrets it and goes to the magic ending.
Yeah.
You can only open
She
one
saw
door.
Erica and was
Open
like,
both
wait,
doors.
fuck, go back.
I think the way the manga frames it is that you get shown the trick ending, and then like Angie like shakes herself awake, and she's like back on the floor at the start of the magic ending, and she's like, oh, what a horrible dream,
Oh yes. Wait, I remember it now.
So
What a nightmare. Erica.
yeah. I dreamed I was stuck with my imaginary friend Erica for the rest of my days as a pirate.
I was just asking that because it definitely is, I feel like the magic versus trick, because I've read feelings of some people who have chosen the trick ending first, and it's usually about like people who are still, just taking this highly logical dissection approach to Umineko versus
Yeah.
the people who chose the magic ending first, where it's like, I mean, they have love. They've seen the what's kind of behind the curtains. I asked that just because I'm trying to figure out, if maybe one of you might be which one of you is the imposter, because I feel like choosing magic versus trick first is, it says a lot about your Umineko.
Okay, I will say
journey.
this might be getting off topic again, but like the trick ending is badass. Like, I'm very glad it exists.
The trick ending is badass.
It is.
know.
It is badass, but if you're one of the people on the Umineko subreddit who's like, actually, I think the trick ending is the true ending, and Angie's gonna find the truth, and she's gonna get satisfaction. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
There is one very good reason that I think that could hold water, and that's that it feels a lot more what do you call it, like contiguous. Like, it picks up with Angie on the boat to Rokujima. Like, the magic ending doesn't do that. The magic ending is like, oh, all that shit that Angie did, like, yeah, that hasn't happened yet. But she's gonna come to the realization and change and become a better person right now. She's gonna do it, like, immediately after Ava died. Like, that to me doesn't feel right. But I think that's just, like, I don't know, magic. Magic did it. That's one thing I really hate, because I love EP4. I love EP8. And, like, in terms of like a timeline outside of the meta world, like, that shit doesn't happen in the magic ending, which is kind of weird.
I mean, I think that what really happened was Angie was contemplating everything while she was on, the edge, thinking about killing herself, and she kind of came to the conclusion that, like, dying isn't going to solve her problems and stuff. Like, her family would want her to live,
unless you
and going down, that's why she decided to turn stuff around, not just like Ava died, let's switch things up a little bit.
There's also other things, like she recognizes Amakusa. She's never met the guy, but she recognizes him. She's like, oh god. Like, it all kind of feels like it.
No, she's met him. Ava hired him as a bodyguard when she was little, and then fired him.
Yeah, I forgot that. Okay, so she has met him, but at the same time, like, I mean, as readers, we're like, like, we haven't met him yet, if you will. Like, EP4 hasn't happened yet, and I feel like it should happen before. Like, to me, it feels like I just think Rikishi could have written this ending a little better. Like, he could have. I wish he'd picked them both up on the boat, and it would have kind of been like nice symmetrically for them to both start in the same place, where she like realizes different things from her journey, and like both of them are probably like, I don't need to go to Rokujima, but like you know, I think in the trick ending, like they show them the submachine gun. They're like, oh, with that you could kill like a dozen people, and they wouldn't even have a chance to fight back. I think that's like foreshadowing that she's going to try and ambush the Sumideras, but that's just headcanon. But like in general, I don't think she needs to go to Rokujima after either of the endings.
Yeah, I think just like in terms of thematic relevance, and I know this is a little off topic, but I think the reason Rikishi put it up there, even though it is a little weird that we saw a bunch of stuff that didn't technically happen, is because that's like the life or death point for Angie. She's either going to go die searching for the truth and basically like throw her life away, or she's going to start living. Hence why it's
I guess
that's where she changes her mind.
I just think that everything after the skyscraper was just... Okay, the thing is I really like the scene in EP8 where Angie realizes that she's still got, like, she is still on top of that skyscraper with one foot in the air. Like,
Yeah.
that scene hit way too hard the first time I saw it. And so I do have to wonder if all of this is just Angie playing out all of these like different situations in her head, or if you do take the magic approach and you say, oh, well, these are different fragments of Angie. Which I do think that, like, the magic side exists in some way, but it doesn't intersect with the real world. Like, it's just, like, superimposed on top of it or something.
Yeah.
Like, fragments don't matter, but I think they exist.
I mean, I'm really invested in the idea that EP4 like happened.
I mean,
that like she went on a physical journey, a literal journey, and discovered information. Like she met Professor Itsuki and like had this discussion and like showed him the diary, and then I think it's really important to me that stuff happened. And then
I mean,
it's kind of hard to do that when she's in the hospital room.
I think you can always, because like timeline of EP4 can be a little messy in terms of like when things take place. And you can always interpret this as stuff that Angie did do or find out at some point, which is why she's kind of going through it in her mind at the top of the skyscraper.
It could also be things she found out like later in her life after she, after she already had changed her name and whatnot, and she's reflecting on in the past, like what if I had gone back like and made that journey and found that out then. What would life have been like if I had gone on that journey? If we want to think of a way to make it all one contiguous timeline and also still have the journey matter.
She also could have tried to fake her name in either timeline, because in one she doesn't want the Sumideras after her, and the other she wants to, get her life together and put all this behind her.
One last thing I want to ask is about this anyway. Is how do you feel about the concept of only picking one ending and just like sticking with that? Because like I feel like that is the truest you can be to the themes. But I also feel like no one did that. Like,
I feel like the endings would
have
to be equal for that to work. Like, if you pick the trick ending and we're like, no, I'm sticking with it, I'm not watching the magic ending, like, you're kind of just missing out on content. And like, even more possibly the other way. If you just watch the magic ending and you're like, nah, I'm good, I'm not gonna... Like, the trick ending is just free bonus content. It's just, like, it's not a full ending. It's just kind of like a what if. It's kind of fun. Like... It'd be like if...
It's a neat little scene.
Yeah, it'd be like if the only thing you got in Higurashi was, like redeeming Tepe instead of, like... You get that, like, cathartic but kind of not quite feeling right moment of, like, Keiichi beating him to death with a baseball bat. Like, it's just kind of... like, that's the enjoyment you get out of, like, Angie just being like, you know what? No, fuck all of you. Like, you're all just setting me up. Bam!
Yeah, I mean, I felt pretty content with how I did it. Like, I looked at it, or I did the magic ending first, and then, had a good cry, and let it sit for about an hour before I went on and did the trick ending, and I was like, oh, you know, that's, yeah, I mean, bonus content is kind of how I viewed it. I was like, this is an interesting fragment that could have happened, but, you know, in my heart, I know the magic ending is the ending in my heart.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people who are magic truthers, but did the trick first to see it and get it out of the way so they could finish Umineko with the magic ending.
I heavily
That's
considered
very valid.
Which is super valid.
I have a new theory, if people would like to hear.
Go for it.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Each of the volumes of Sakutaro's adventure that Angie writes are a different path of her in EP4, or of her life.
Do we know anything about what the contents of Sakutaro's adventure is? Like,
they're bestsellers, and there are 8 volumes.
Oh, right.
And it's about teaching kids, like, you know, like stuff about like coping and like some serious topics and stuff like that. Like it's, you know, like it's stuff that would have helped her. She mentioned.
I feel like writing even just Angie's part of Umineko, like I feel like even just the part where like Kasumi's like, all right, I'm gonna fucking kill you now, would be a bit much for kids. But
that's true.
I'm sorry, have you read Warrior Cats? Like, sorry, kids' books are violent. You can get
Animorphs,
intestines coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
Books are, but books don't have the same kind of content guidelines for kids as movies do because you don't see any of it. So it's
I mean, I think like there's definitely the way kids media is handled is like, you know, Avatar's allowed to have themes of like, yeah, you're gonna have to kill the Fire Lord, but they have to like frame it like you have to put an end to the Fire Lord. You're gonna have to make him go away forever. You're gonna have to cause him to not breathe. Like they skirt around topics like that, which I guess Kasumi does too. She's like, I'm gonna serve you matcha.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we all know what that means. Like,
yeah. But Kasumi's talking in public, so she has like a diegetic reason to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're moving away from.
Yeah, we gotta find the sus imposter.
I have a question for all of you.
Also, my connection just dropped, but I'm back.
I have a question for all of you to move this topic along. So after EP8 came out of the VN, you know, when we didn't have a solution, there were all these like theories that were alternate to the Shikanon-Triss theory. So you had Rosa-Triss alive and well, and I feel like it got a lot harder to continue to be a Rosa-Triss true believer once the manga came out. How do you guys feel about that? All these dead theories. It's still possible, but yeah.
I think it's still possible. I see many Rosa-Triss truthers out there in the wild. I once commented on an Umineko review, and I was like, yeah, Umineko's great. Someone's like, oh, are you a Rosa-Triss believer too? And I was like, I don't know anything about that. Which, I think it's great that people are able to interpret the story in different ways and stuff. I don't really believe in alternate theories. Maybe reading Confession immediately after EP7 made me biased, but I think even just like taking Confession out of it and reading Umineko, a lot of the themes about Beatrice as a character and her relationship with Battler just are impossible to line up with Rosa. So I don't think I feel like they can live in their world with Rosa-Triss culprit theory, but that is not my truth.
Yeah, I do wish that. Oh, go on.
I was just gonna say I have very similar thoughts. Like I think it is very cool that, because I think even with the truth out there, it's still very valid to make theories, and because I mean the existence of fragments, you can just say, this is a different fragment of Rokenjima, but I also do believe, I think the one truth, it is so central to the story that, Shikanon-Triss, it's just very central to a lot of the themes, and the kind of deeper meaning behind the story, whereas, you know, Rosatrees, I definitely, I gotta say, I respect those Rosatrees truthers, but, you know, I think maybe that's just a different fragment.
Yeah, I mean, I think my solid opinion on Rosatris is it's an interesting hypothetical for discussion. I think any alternate culprit theory is fun to like discuss and suss out, but if you like genuinely believe that as the truth, then you didn't understand the culprit of Umineko, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I disagree. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So I was gonna say, I think that other like culprit theories could work. I don't think like Rosatris works. Anything that insists someone other than Saya was Beatrice like loses so much value of Umineko. Like you were saying though.
I think Rosatris is a very interesting truth because it I think focuses on a very different theme of Umineko than what Umineko intended on going for, which is, you know, finding truth in lies, which like it's sort of like, because Umineko's ultimate thesis, I guess, was like that the truth doesn't ultimately matter. It's what you do with, you know, with your future. But I think the people who believe in Rosatris are people who were probably really burned by the end of EP3 and felt really hurt that Beatrice tricked them, and also genuinely feel like you know, there's always more questions to be answered, and you know, part of that is that nothing that ever is an answer is actually the truth.
Yeah.
So I think you guys,
I don't know.
like, you guys answered more the Rosatris part of my question than I perhaps intended. Like, I think, like, I wasn't trying to say, like, you know, what do you think of Rosatris, but what do you think of the fact, I think there's a lot less, like, there used to be people who were, like, I think there used to be more people who could say, like, Rosatris is the truth than there can be now that the manga is out, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, in terms of like any official discussion, you know, anyone who goes, "Hey, I've got a cute alternate theory," has to like write it that way. Whereas, you know, maybe in the past they could have said, "You guys are all wrong about the truth of Umineko," you know, and have a bit more of a scandalous tone. Do you think, like?
Yeah, I think we definitely did miss out on, like, I mean, I personally missed out on, could have been a very interesting, you know, just discussion, because, you know, like, I missed out on the days of, you know, people just coming up with their own theories and, like, saying, no, this theory is right, because, I mean, I know the one truth, which, you know, like I said, you know, it makes absolute sense that that's the truth, but also, it would have been cool to see all these kind of, debates going on over the actual truth.
Yeah, to put it like in Umineko terms, we have lost the ability to do funny red-blue truth battles about the culprit, and can now just immediately end any argument about who the real culprit is by slamming the red truth of confessions down on the table.
Well, then people could hit you with the no more special of Ryukishi is lying to you.
I think that was.
I think that's a purple truth.
Yeah, I think didn't No More's video, didn't that come out before the confession manga though? And I'm pretty sure I remember.
It did.
Yes.
Yeah.
It did? Okay.
Yeah.
When confession came out, he changed his mind.
I think it got deleted.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, he stopped wanting to talk about it.
I don't remember which episode it was, but I remember Mushroom talking about how she found the original No More. Well, she found No More, and had to talk to them about that, and they said, like, yeah, they don't actually believe Rosatris anymore. So, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
an
an episode.
That's so
Yeah,
fascinating.
apparently it was a coincidence.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I will say my favorite crack theory is one. I think this was last Umineko episode I was on, other than the April Fool's episode on the Umineko iceberg, is Kawabata trees, that he wasn't technically on the island, he was actually on his boat sniping everyone.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, listen, he knows where the back entrance is. He could have set up the bomb and he could have walked away. Right before the typhoon started.
That is probably my favorite crack theory, because, you know, it's like, they're like, oh, you see all the red truths are about people being on the island. He was on a boat around the island.
It's like one of those ones where it's like almost impossible to deny too, because you know he has access to the Kuwadorian tunnels, which are where the bombs are, so he could just set the bomb mechanism and just like sail off before the typhoon goes after she drops off the family.
But then the island will blow up on October 4th though, right?
He could do it at any
Because
point.
it goes off at midnight.
If he's just hanging out in the basement.
Yeah, the typhoon.
Like,
But he wouldn't be able to like leave, and he's alive at EP4.
as far
Yeah,
as we know.
because
Yeah.
Ava
Extra
survives
timer.
the explosion.
We
so...
can make it work.
I love the idea
Oh,
that
wait.
Ava is just sitting in Kuwadorian, and then she sees the ship captain like just across the room from her, and then she's just like,
Need a ride?
Kawabata? Why are you here? Just doing
I mean,
things.
how else was she discovered on Kuwadorian if they did not go to the alternate dock?
I thought she left, and that's how she was discovered.
So what I'm
So
hearing
she's
is...
Actually,
people.
wait. Here's the real theory. Kawabata didn't do it on that night. Oh fuck, my phone alarm is going off. He didn't do it that night. He waited until the morning of October 5th when the typhoon was up and went and immediately set the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then he didn't pick them up. And then it blew up on October 6th.
I'm a big fan of Beatrice with a jetpack theory. Where there is
So
a
true.
19th person, she's just not on the island. Flying above the island with an AK. Like,
Oh my god. It all makes sense.
So I guess the answer to the question then is that these theories are still being formed despite that truth existing, because we are making valid theories. I mean, jetpack.
but I don't think we're taking
Are they
it super
valid though? Because
seriously.
Confessions is right there.
Yeah.
That's like the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like we can joke about theories or we could talk about hypotheticals, but can we believe in them? I mean, like, if we want to ignore what the actual truth is, I guess so. You know, it's like, yeah, I can believe in this. However, comma, everyone is going to say I'm wrong and know I'm wrong because confessions exist and it's telling me I'm wrong.
I think there's a theory.
Which is a little against the spirit of Umineko.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being wrong about your Umineko truth. Like, guys, don't tell Angie.
I wonder if there's also a distinction between people who wanted the truth of, like, the same truth that Angie wanted, which is, like, the truth of the reality of, like, the continuous timeline of the real world, versus people who wanted the truth of, like, the true answers, you know?
I don't think revealing Rikkinjima Prime in the manga was a good play, honestly. I think
Yeah,
that...
actually,
Go on.
or no, say your part first, because I was then gonna actually move on to something else
Oh, okay.
semi-related.
Then two things before I move on to something else. First up, like, yes, Kyrie and Rudolph doing the thing to everyone is the thing that makes the most logical sense with why Ava wouldn't tell Angie the truth. But, like, you could feasibly make another theory on, like, oh, well, she wouldn't want her to hate, like, Rosa, or God, it's always Rosatress. That's just the first one that came into my mind.
She's just the most sus.
You could reasonably make a theory about Rikkinjima Prime. But they revealed that anyway, so...
Ava was actually secretly protecting Nanjo's son,
Oh.
because Nanjo's the culprit.
True, Ninja.
My cat's going stupid. Sorry if you hear her.
I guess what I wanted to ask is I kind of want everyone to just, you know, if you could, just reiterate your position, like, not like, go through everything you
Right.
said again, but just like, for example, you know, as far as revealing the truth goes, I'm a little on the fence, but I more lean towards, I kind of wish it hadn't happened.
Mm-hmm. My stance is confession is my guilty pleasure, but it probably shouldn't have happened.
Mine is that, I think confession is good that it exists, but it does go against the themes of the story.
Okay, mine is still...
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll go. Mine is still, despite the leading questions I made, I still think that that the manga, for the format, having confession in the manga is the right thing to do. And then for the VN, I think Rikishi also did the right thing in not showing it.
I think confession continues the theme of, a mystery being romance between the author and the reader, and when the readers express their dissatisfaction, Ryukishi continued to show his love by providing the answer.
That is a good way to think about it, honestly.
Does anybody have any...
Alright.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about who we sus now?
I actually just made notes kind of briefly summarizing everyone's positions. I really want to find the imposter.
I've been kind of putting it off because not everyone doesn't have the same take, but a lot of them have like similar views.
I was gonna say, this is actually more difficult than I expected, because I expected like, okay, someone's gonna say they love confession and like defend confession to death, and I'd be like, no, you're the imposter.
When we heard 4 out of 5 of the opinions, I was sweating a little because I was like, oh god, these are all so similar. The last person's going to be like, Ryukishi is a hack writer who can't write for shit, and we'd all know that they're the imposter. But no, they're all like, yeah.
Nah, there's like some very subtle like nuances between them, but we're all on fairly similar pages. At least like, we have like a nice gradient happening.
I mean, I think the thing I'm most curious about at this point is whoever the imposter is, like, what is their real opinion? Because, like,
right?
it almost seems like the imposter might have been the one person who actually has the exact opposite opinion of us, but they're, since they're the imposter, they're kind of aligning.
Yeah, Horsekin made a mistake.
He made us all imposter.
I like the idea we do.
What
we
if,
did with
actually?
Last time. We had
really
silence, and no one speaks up for like 20 seconds.
I mean, you joke, but like...
Alright, I do have a finger to point, though. As Corey, I think you're a little sus,
A sussy
if I'm gonna be
baka, one might
honest.
say.
I
I think
agree.
it's kind of sus, too.
And I will explain my suspicions. Firstly, I believe it was Kyle first who stated his opinion. And after that, you immediately went, "I agree," which is a red flag in my book to immediately agree with the person who went first. And then you continued to be like, "Oh, I'm not really sure about my opinion, if I'm being honest. I'm on the fence." And then you like slowly, gradually formed an opinion later on about the romance view between Ryukishi and the viewer and Ryukishi giving stuff over. And I know when I was the sussy imposter last time, that was my go-to. Ryukishi is gifting this to us from above, and therefore I see my past wrongs in you, and that is my basis for suspicion.
I love that.
I will say the reason that I think the thing that kind of like blipped into my head is when, as said, Ryukishi had like an obligation to release Confession, because I feel like whoever said like a world where Confession wasn't released, that would be fine. It'd be kind of a little insane to be like, yeah, they should make a manga like spin-off of The Truth of Umineko. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't quite sound right as just like a sentence.
I would...
Yeah. I feel like if the manga didn't exist, or at least Confession didn't exist within it, I wouldn't be like, yeah, Ryukishi should reveal the truth, because I'd be like, Well, no, that's the point of Umineko. You don't get the truth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're living in this post-confession world, but I really do feel like, you know, like I said, the kind of logic side of myself's like, oh, okay, it's cool that confession exists, but I almost feel like even if confession didn't exist, then the logic side of myself would be like, I want to make my own theories. I wanna try and dissect this, while still, you know, the more emotional side's respecting, you know, the kind of themes in the story. But I actually feel like confession kind of, where originally my logic side really liked it, I feel like it's almost killed some of my logical thinking, because now I'm like, okay, well, why should I make my own theories? The truth is right there.
Yeah, it's like if you know about confession's existence, even if like you're reading the VN, if you're aware of it, when you finish Umineko and you don't fully understand what's going on with the culprit, your instinct isn't to go, okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at stuff and I'm gonna try to figure out and understand the culprit like Willard did. You go, okay, I'll just like read confessions and figure it out there, and then I'll know. It like kills theory crafting.
I did also think
Yeah.
his was a little sus, but for the sake of content, I'll offer an alternative. Anon, you said that you came up with your theory, or you didn't think about it until just before the episode, which is exactly what an imposter would do.
Well, I mean, it really is. I mean, I'll tell you know, you can judge if I'm being sus or not, but genuinely, it really is just. I really had not thought about that question again since I first finished Umineko, because it's like, I guess I almost just took it for granted. I was like, okay, well, there's the truth, you know? I mean, I'll still continue to think about Umineko's themes, but I also have the truth already, so that's the end of that.
I think planning what you were going to say before the podcast begins is actually a little more sus, because that means you had to plan out something. What were you planning? A lie? Don't you just have your opinion in your pocket?
Okay, if you want to know like an extra layer to this truth, I actually dreamt we recorded this episode last night, and it's like I was in my own meta world, like thinking about my own relationship towards, you know, the Ryukishi's truth versus like, you know, oh, should he have released it, should he have not? And then I woke up this morning and I was like, because I'll be honest, it's ever since we came up with this topic, it's been really back and forth for me. I'm like, for a while I was like, I'm a little scared to be on this episode. I don't know if I can form, you know, concrete opinion, or if I'm just going to be on the fence the whole time, but I think I am definitely leaning more towards that. You know, I kind of regret it existing a little bit, especially now that I'm thinking about, it would have been so cool to make my own theories over this, but that kind of...
It would have.
Drive isn't really there due to confessions existing.
I feel like confessions should exist in a locked box for people who
Yes,
really understand the culprit. Like,
it needs to be in
really
the cat
hard
box.
To read confession.
But that's the whole thing. Like, if it were available, like, we would read it, you know?
Yes.
Exactly, yes.
we did, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Like, even if it were locked away, like, we would seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we Umineko fans are rabid.
I feel like you have to
starving.
earn it, you know?
I mean,
No one earns confession. They just grab it. Like, if you really want to see that, I feel like we gotta like solve it.
We gotta actually go to Rokenjima.
Yeah, we have to prove that we understood the culprit.
We have to go dig up the grave of some lady who died in 1988 and find her diary.
Exactly.
What I will say with Anonymous is that I had a similar thing where I was on the fence while I also wrote my take beforehand. Last night.
Interesting.
And I was thinking about it, and I honestly wasn't so sure what side I was on to begin with.
yeah, I was similar. Like, I wrote the question and then I thought about it.
Interesting.
Like, at first I was like, I don't remember what my instinct was, but it was something different than what I settled on. It is an interesting topic, and one we probably don't think about because it's like, it's just there. Like, we don't have a choice, so, you know. whether you think it was right or not. You know, it's just there. Actually, just talking about it just now, I think someone said, like, you know, it's available, so who isn't going to read it?
Mhm.
It's like, maybe, because I probably wouldn't have read it for a while if it was a side story. Like, if it wasn't part of EP8, I probably would have read EP8, been like, damn, that was a good story. And then, like, later, someone would have mentioned it on r/Umineko, and I'd be like, oh, and maybe gone and read it then. And that might have been better. But I only just thought of that now. That's not part of my take.
Honestly, I agree that might have been a little bit better. I still don't think it should be, like... I don't know. I still think it kills theory crafting, but, like, to have it not be presented in the, like, you know, the core story of Umineko would be a little bit better. Like, if it was, like, in one of the Tsubasas or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, like, EP9, I guess.
It would have
Something
probably
like that.
made a better EP9 than what we got.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that.
I need to read that one of these days.
I will say nothing other than that it is...
I was gonna say, Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say real quickly that I actually have not read EP9 either, because of how, like, some people on the podcast said they really didn't like it. I was like, I don't want...
But I don't
It
love
has some funny moments, and I would read it for those moments, but taking it as a piece of canon and taking it as EP9, I would say, is dubious.
It's a long side story. It's not EP9. It's like 2 hours. I think most of them are like 20 to 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Doesn't anyone have any more detective work to do before we... I kind of feel bad just jumping on ears, because I feel like the biggest thing for me was what Kyle said, and the reason that I jumped on that was because it was different than what I think.
Yeah.
I don't really want to just eject the person who disagrees with me.
There is the possibility, like I said, there's a possibility that someone has just the completely opposite opinion we have, and once they heard us start talking about, you know, we have pretty similar views on it, they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. They were just like, easy win.
I remember when Lurf was saying their point the first time, I like, something went off in my head, but I can no longer remember what it was.
Yo?
I was like, that sounds a little bit, I don't know about that. But
yeah, I should have been taking notes this whole time, but I was kind of just wrapped up in talking. I'm
so curious what set off.
Maybe when the episode comes out, I'll listen to it and be like, oh, that's what it is.
I'm trying to remember what the fuck, how I phrased everything. Wait, did I say something sus?
No, I don't think so, but I think my brain was just like, I don't know. Is that your take? Like, I don't think I've heard you talk about this topic, though, so...
I don't think I've talked about it at all, so you can't use past reference to out me, on any stance.
Can't use the red truth.
No.
Yeah,
I do have prior experience. I was gonna say, I do have prior experience with Lurf being the imposter, and I have to say it wasn't easy, and there was only one other option, so...
Yeah.
You know,
I like heard like 5 people, and I was like, "That's good."
I like to think that I'm a convincing liar. Not to say that I'm the imposter this time. I'm just, I'm just good at saying words. But I am not the imposter this time.
That's exactly what an imposter would say.
Okay, and you accusing me is exactly what an imposter would do. So how about that one? Check yourself.
I will say, now this, of course, I haven't been on an episode like this with you guys, but at least from my own personal experience, of course, Horsefry is the host, you know, it makes sense for him to take control of the conversation, but usually when I'm trying to lie about something, I make sure that I'm in control of the conversation, because... you know, that kind of casts some suspicion off of myself if, like, I'm like, okay, you know, here, next up, alright, we're gonna talk about, like, you know, I want to ask you some more questions on these points, and, like, I mean, definitely not an accusation to Horsefry, but just more of an observation.
Usually liars are either very quiet so they don't get caught, or they're very proactive to put suspicion off of them. Because if you're the most active one in the conversation, then clearly you're not the one trying to hide something.
So when I play werewolf, every time I'm werewolf, I make sure to, try and take control of the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have some sus spells from Horsefry ringing off. Like, if it isn't as Corey, Horsefry was my second guess, but I don't remember what exactly set that off in my mind either.
I don't remember anyone's takes at this point. Like, I remember the general,
okay,
the
should we
general
reiterate?
takes, but I would love a refresher.
Let's go down the list top to bottom for our takes.
Yeah,
okay, so, my take is essentially that, originally I was very happy that Confessions exists, and I read it about a week after I read the visual novel, and I was so happy to have that closure. But looking back on it, I kind of feel like it steps on the themes of Umineko a little bit, on the kind of deeper story, and then, the kind of realization actually throughout this podcast that, like, whoa, it would have been cool to make my own theory separate from the actual truth. Now, with all those combined, I'm kind of thinking, I wish Confessions didn't exist.
Alright.
Oh, sorry. Mine was basically the romance between Ryukishi and ourselves as the readers necessitates the answer when we are dissatisfied.
Mine, so I feel like Confession works in the manga format, but it was better to not have it in the VN. So basically, Rikishi did it exactly right. It is basically about, it's the manga format that makes Confession the right place to put it.
Mine was like more just like defending the reality that we have, that like because Confession exists, I will say that I think it's good that it exists, because we can't go back to a time before Confession existed, is what I've been realizing as we're doing this podcast. So kind of like an evolution of what I said at the start. But that Confession goes against the themes of the story, but I am glad that it exists to an extent. But I am on the fence a lot, like Anonymous.
And my hot take is that Confession's a guilty pleasure of mine. I think it's really interesting to read. Like, I enjoyed reading it, but I also really hate that it exists, and I think that it shouldn't exist. So I'm like, good piece of art. It ruins so much about the themes of Umineko and theory crafting and, like, the whole point. It misses the point so bad.
See, this is where I'm afraid a little bit of bias on my side might be coming out, because, like, I'm not really suspecting Kyle or Lurf, because they have the opinions that align the most with me, and they seem the most similar to me. But what if they think the complete opposite, and they're very good liars?
That's the dark horse of this format, is like someone just has a really wild opinion, or even just like the opposite opinion.
Exactly. What if?
Like, dude, like, what if someone thinks Confession should have been in the VN? That's horrifying. Oh no.
Just right after the magic.
It's the reward for actually choosing the trick ending, is that you get the
Yeah.
That would actually be kind of neat.
Oh my god.
That could have been cool.
I think
I wouldn't like it.
That scares me.
Yeah.
That's you can't be rewarded for the trick ending, you know?
Well,
I feel like if you choose to be an Erica and you get Confessions,
but
that's
it also
bad.
is interesting because it's a way of like reflecting. The trick ending, I feel like, is focusing on the past, whereas the magic is focusing on the future. And you are really focusing on the past because you want the truth of Rokkenjima. I think it actually would be very.
But the point of the trick ending is Angie will never get satisfaction, never find the truth, because it's impossible.
I think as a reader, though, it's very interesting. It as we were talking before, both endings, I'd say, like, don't have equal weight. I think this is a way of maybe giving them equal weight, as one focusing on the past of Umineko and one focusing on the future.
See, because, like, I get what you're saying in concept, but to present that to the reader, because, like, when you're writing a story, you're obviously intending a takeaway for the reader, something for them to get. And so if you give the reader the bad take ending, the trick ending, and you show Angie, wasting her life away, it's, like, clear, like, she's with Erica, the intellectual rapist, she's gonna fucking kill Amakusa, she's never gonna find satisfaction in her life because there's no truth that'll satisfy her. That really puts a message in your hand of, yeah, this isn't the right choice. You don't need to know the truth, or the truth is only going to, trying to find it's only gonna drive you crazy. It's not worth it. And then to get the truth and be like, okay, but here's your little treat though. Like, that's like, it's like sending mixed messages. It's like, okay, but the trick ending is the right one because then you get the answer. And then people are like, the magic ending is just going to lie to you.
I was saying about a situation where instead of the trick ending we got, it gave one focused on the past of Beatrice. But I definitely, it would be a thematic whiplash.
It would, yeah.
No, especially, like, if I went into that not knowing that the trick ending had that, and, like, I did just, like, how I actually did...
right, and then,
did the
and
magic
then you lose the
ending,
chance for theories.
Yeah, did the magic
It's
ending,
like...
took a breather, did the trick ending, and then whoa!
Like, I was gonna go back and figure that out later. Like, fuck.
But if you're choosing
no
trick
to
the end, you still haven't understood.
Yeah, you're basically battling from EP1. Like...
Well, I mean, trick isn't about understanding. It's about looking for the truth, which I think are two fundamentally different things in Umineko, because Erica's all about the trick. She's like, that's a trick, that's a trick, that's a trick, and then she doesn't look further than that. Whereas with magic, it's about understanding. So, magic isn't about, like, oh, I'm gonna believe whatever I want to believe. It's like, I'm going to, kind of live my best life and understand these messages that are being told to me, and I'm gonna just understand the purpose of magic and why people do this, which is more in lines with figuring out the truth of Beato, if you want my honest opinion.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with what you're getting out there.
I didn't think I was this passionate about this topic, I'll be real.
Oh, like I said, I was a little scared, because, when I saw we were doing an Umineko talk, and I mean, just like last week or something, I was like, I really want to get back into doing Umineko episodes. I was like, okay, I jumped right on board, but then I was like, oh no, like, I don't know what to talk about. But hey, here we are.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I feel less and less good about the fact that Iz is my first pick, because, like, I look down the list and, like, I have my own take, obviously, but, like, I mostly agree with Kyle, Lurf, and Anon. It's just, something about Iz saying, like, that we demanded the confession and that, Ryukishi was honor bound to give in to democracy. Like, that doesn't feel right with me. But then that's just because I disagree with it, so...
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't
like...
want to let my own bias, like, overtake, who I'm accusing of the imposter.
I will say, that is the take that I did go with, though, back when I was the imposter. That's what's getting me about it.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah?
This one makes sense, like, from an actual this is what happened perspective. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to phrase it like that. So
my take about Ryukishi and our love between author and reader, and that wasn't a take in our last one about the one truth, or whatever the fuck we're talking about. Oh, the red truth. But, Ryukishi using the red truth as his love to us to trust him to write the story. That's not a valid take.
That's not a valid take.
But as Corey,
I'm glad you understand.
Ryukishi understands we were dissatisfied with Umineko, and thus he loves us enough to give us confession. Absolutely. Like, this is slander. This is...
Ryukishi loves when we hate him.
It here.
That's why he released Go and Sotsu.
Yeah.
I think my take made more sense.
He released Go
I'm biased towards my own lies.
But what I was gonna say is that it makes sense because that's what happened with EP3. Is that EP2, a lot of people just kind of gave up because they're like, oh, it's magic. And he was going to have Land of the Golden Witch prepared that would be even more dubious. And then he saw that people weren't understanding his story, and so he was like, fine, I'll throw you a bone. And so if, like, after however many years, people were, like, still, like, you know, it's kind of messed up that you didn't give us an answer here after, like, 400
Yeah,
hours.
I do think that's the reason. That's the reason why we have
an
confession. Like, I do believe that, but I think the question I asked was like, should he have done it? And I think, like, yeah, my take picks up from that. Is like, I think for the manga format, it made sense. But I do think there was definitely, like, Rikishi has given into pressure before, and he would do it for confession.
Do we want to put it to a vote then?
Yeah, we're reaching about an hour and a half. It's hard for me to point fingers at people, but
I know where my finger is pointed, so
why don't we go
make it more-
reverse
I'm
alphabetical order
steady
then?
on this.
did you say you could make it more confusing?
I can make it more confusing.
Hold on. Now you've got me curious.
Alright. I'll say it in red. This take started as my lie.
What?
Do with that what you will.
Interesting.
What?
Interesting.
I will not say if this
Okay.
is my lie or not, but when I was writing it out for the script, this started as my lie.
Okay.
Perhaps
so,
I'm lying right now, or perhaps my opinion changed while I was
because
writing it.
I did notice, and this was a point of sus for me when we started. Well, not when we started, but as time went on, because I noticed that your opinion changed when you restated it the second time, and because of that, I'm slightly more inclined to believe you are a truther, because I think a liar would not change their opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like if I point my finger at Kyle, I'm also pointing my finger at myself, because also, my opinion evolved, I mean, over the past, like, 4 or 5 days I've been thinking about this question, my opinion's been evolving, my opinion's evolved as I, really got my words out here, talking about it on the episode, so I'm like, if I point my finger at Kyle, what's saying
Yeah, I'm
suspicious
similar.
then?
When I wrote the question, I was like, oh, this will be good. I know people care about this a lot. But I think my initial thought when I wrote the question might have been, like, yeah, I just want to know the answer. Like, just tell me the answer. I definitely don't think that now that I've thought about it. But I don't. Yeah, I think I changed my thought a lot in the process of, like, running up to this episode. So I definitely sympathize.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounded like the bottom end of the alphabetical order had a more firm idea than the top. So do we want to go, like, reverse alphabetical, go up the roster? Who do you think it is, Liv?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. As Corey, I'm sticking to that. I think there's something strange going on over there.
I'd have to agree, but I feel bad because I think 4
Yeah.
people said I think it says Corey.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
we're correct.
I'm sorry for calling you a liar just because I don't agree. But I don't agree at all with what you said.
I mean, listen, if you're a truther, you have my
Yeah.
full apologies for calling you a little sussy baka. But right now you're being a little sussy baka in my eyes.
As who do you think might be the liar? If
Yeah,
not you?
I'll say it's horse scam.
It's horse scam.
Horse fry.
Horse
sorry.
scam lied. He
Horse
told
scam.
the imposter
Horse
they were the imposter,
Horse
but they
scam
weren't.
lied, and he made us all the crewmate.
Yeah.
It's the horse.
Alright,
I saw horse, and yes.
I hate to say it, especially now I kind of wish we went in alphabetical order, because, yeah, I'm also voting as Corey.
All
I
right.
can't wait for us to be wrong. I hope we're wrong.
I hope we're wrong,
I-
too.
Because I want to know whose wild ass take it is.
Well-
If Corey isn't the imposter.
Yeah.
Sometimes truth is more simple than the lies.
A twist. Oh.
Yeah, I do not believe that confession should have been written.
Damn.
Yo,
I
let's
fucking
go.
knew it! You sounded so disingenuous.
I have lots of feelings about it. I think it's a really, really beautiful piece of gender dysphoria, and it's very important for that reason. But as a part of the main narrative of Umineko, I think it definitely detracts a lot from the main themes. And I also think a lot of it, and this is also like an issue with the manga itself for me, a lot of it just really takes a lot of the meta world things as literal, which I think also does a lot to hurt the main themes of Umineko. Like when Lambda Delta literally is coming down, I'm like, that's an unnecessary thing to add, I feel like.
Yeah, because I think the impression with Confession is this is like the real raw truth. So when you put in the magic elements in it, it muddles that.
Yes.
Because, like, if we were seeing it in a magic light, then, yeah, obviously Lambda Delta came in and gifted her with the power of certainty, aka the boom boom boxes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it doesn't... It muddles it.
That's a good point. Like,
For what it's worth, we do see Gap and Claire in Confession.
Also,
like...
also, like, she invented Claire at the same time as Gap. Like, that whole thing did not make sense to me.
But Gap was written as Beatrice, and then her name is like crossed out, and then you have Claire written as Beatrice. And I'm like, I think it happens in the same order. It's just that you've already read EP7 by that point, so that you know what.
That's
happened.
true. That's true.
So they're right next to each other, but I think it's just not explaining. Like,
it's just the different iterations and redesigns of Beatrice she goes on.
But yeah, those are my true thoughts and feelings on the matter. I really agreed with most of what you all had to say, though.
You know what? I'm a little glad.
Me too. Because although it also would have been interesting, like if someone really just had a way out there take.
One of these days,
it would have been fascinating.
Yeah.
One of these days, someone's gonna have a wild take, and I'd be fascinated by it.
One of these days, someone's gonna say like, "No, Featherine is Ikiko in like the real world. Like she's just God." Like...
Yeah, and she's also Sayo.
Yeah.
And the person who says that will
like
also then try to make it coherent when they cry timeline, including Ciconia as like a far future event.
No. Ciconia isn't the far future. It's the past, and everything that's happening in Higurashi and Umineko is a simulation in the brain spine area.
I agree fully.
You're so right.
And Lambda Delta was the original, and Satoko, Takano, and other Lambda Delta, they're all, fucking whatever it's called.
34s?
Parallel processing.
She has CPPs.
Yeah, CPPs.
She has 70 alternative accounts.
She has the 34 alternative accounts.
It's true.
Wait, shit, we should poke in a Ciconia spoilers at the end there.
Oh yeah! We did talk about Higurashi spoilers earlier.
Oh, I did.
Did we?
Yeah,
we might want to insert...
when we talked about Tepe.
Okay, hang on, just everyone be quiet for a sec. And also spoilers for Higurashi and Ciconia, because I fucked up later on. Okay, I'll just add that at the front.
Okay.
Beautiful. Good.
All right. Are we...
We're really good at keeping spoilers too.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even think.
Listen, when you talk about one when they cry, it's hard not to talk about other when they cry.
I should really just learn my lesson and just make full spoilers for everything. But
like, I'd like to make an episode that like, hey, you don't need to watch
true.
You need to watch
True.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should gatekeep so people read Ciconia.
True.
I mean, there's already a list of required reading, right? You gotta read the Bible, you gotta read, Higurashi, you gotta read Ciconia.
I still gotta read the Bible. It's on my list.
Gotta read the Bible and the most popular Bible fan.
Umineko made me want to read the Bible.
Personally, as a Jewish person, it sort of drops off once the New Testament starts.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
really?
thought the New
I've heard that
Testament arc
opinion
was
a
kinda
little
meh.
bit. I've also heard weird things about the third iteration over in the Mormon camp.
Oh, the spin-off.
There's a good musical
Joseph
about that, I
Smith.
hear.
I appreciate the Mormon iteration from just like, scholarly point of view, but
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating tale.
But, like, is it
very,
the
very
one- is it the
Umineko-esque, if
red
I'm being
truth?
honest.
Is it the one singular truth?
Dude, the Mormons have the book of the one singular truth. they unlocked it. Joseph
They know the
Smith's
truth
backyard.
of Umineko. Joseph Smith is Beatrice.
Oh my god, I'm sorry to the Mormons listening, if there are any.
And that's why this chapter is important, so they can see the gender dysphoria.
True.
Like, really, I think that's the main reason why this chapter exists and is so important, because, like, I don't know, getting Sayo's, like, all of that, like, really concretely stated, like, is just such an important story to be told.
Yeah, I agree. There's some weird stuff with, like, if you keep Sayo completely in the cat box, like, it's cool from, like, a storytelling and a mystery point of view, but when she's such an important character for, like, from a gender and sexuality point of view, it is nice to just have that, like, it just written explicitly.
Yeah, like that's why I say Confession's a guilty pleasure of mine, because I love the portrayal of the gender stuff that Sayo goes through and all of her struggles, and I think it's really real and raw, and it feels like a piece of art, like, just like everything that's, like, portrayed in it. But it's just, like, the way it goes against the themes. It's like, you get there if you understand Sayo when reading the VN, and you can understand that, but to have explicit, like, like, content like that, to also just, like, shove in the face of those few trans folks in the Umineko subreddit, that's also nice, but, like, overall, despite how great it is, it's also, like,
It's violating Beatrice.
It's violating Beatrice, because, like, that's, like, the whole reason Willard didn't want to say it, because Sayo didn't want that to be exposed to the world. And that's why I feel, like, bad reading it, and why I say it's voyeuristic, because Sayo, it's, like, it goes against everything she would have wanted.
yeah.
And the whole point about Umineko is understanding who Sayo is, and by doing this, we rob people of the ability to figure that out on their own.
At some point, I want to get Des and Mushroom to talk about this topic, because they have thoughts as well about Confessions that I want to hear.
I'm positive they do.
Yeah.
We could do that on the general, like, manga adaptation.
Yeah, no, I think
that'd
it'd be
fun.
really...
I have to read
'Cause,
the
I mean,
manga
just
before the
even-
manga adaptation.
Even beyond Confession, I feel like there's a lot of, interesting things we could get into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to throw it out there that Confession is the truth of the manga I'm most okay with existing, because I don't like the locked room murders being revealed, because it just feels... Why? Honestly.
Yeah, no, especially because, like, they're wrong.
Yeah. Some of them are right.
Like-
Some of them are wrong. Which ones are wrong? Like, not all of them, but...
I'm trying to remember, what the fuck? My brain is out the window. I'm pretty sure there were discrepancies with the,
So there was
EP3 first
there was a
Twilight?
whole
The locked room?
Yeah.
Or the chain?
The whole circle chain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like not even necessary for Shannon and Ken to be
Yeah.
the same person for that, right?
Yeah,
Or
because
something like
there's a
that.
door in the boiler room,
Yeah.
and, like, like, you could say, like,
Well,
like,
also
text
the
is like,
chapel.
well, okay, all doors
no,
were locked.
EP2's
Yeah.
the chapel wasn't locked. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, EP2 is the one where it isn't even necessary for Shannon and Ken to be the same person at all. It's just because that one
Yeah.
wasn't a like body double trick. That one was more. just-
Yeah.
The door wasn't locked. A lot of the answers
Yeah.
feel really
Yeah.
unsatisfying when you hear them like
Yeah,
that.
I lied.
Me
No,
when
but, like,
I
it's so
lie.
true, though, to Umineko.
Yeah.
because like she makes it seem impossible, but she just completely omits like the very obvious thing that would make it possible. She's like, look how complicated and hard my mystery is, Battler. And Battler's like, what the fuck? And she's like, I didn't tell him that the door was unlocked.
It's literally when the D&D party spends 3 hours unlocking an unlocked door. Like,
oh my god, it reminds me of when my buddy CJ was trying to figure out the EP2 Shannon George Genji deaths, and like made a chart of how to open a door, and it's like, how do you open a door from the inside, from the outside, with your hand? It was such a good spiral to see.
I will say, if you're interested, there was a smoking room way back when Book Club was still in EP3, right at the end of EP3, that is about the confession and the solution to EP3. And if you find that episode interesting, you can scroll on down to the comments where the actual answer is revealed by Corey Coleman. But it's a very good episode. I recommend it. I left a comment too, but my comment is wrong, so don't read my comment. But I come up with some very interesting headcanons.
yeah. Corey Coleman is the secret member of the podcast.
I would say he's the GOAT, but given the context of Umineko, maybe there should be another word for that.
Yeah. But about like understanding Sayo though, I feel like without confession, Sayo, I wrote this in my notes as Sayo is the world's thickest onion.
Yeah.
With like you could go so many layers deep into Sayo's like psychology and still not really like have breached the tip of the iceberg at some point, like to the point where
she just keeps going.
Yeah, until
So much
I
trauma.
started listening to the book club, I didn't even really like. I understood Sayo to an extent, but I would not say I understood Sayo, and so I didn't really start like loving her as much as I do as a character until like I started listening to the podcast, because when people were actually discussing about how like Sayo pervades every aspect of Umineko, everything is about Sayo, even when it's not, like, because she's the writer of some of it, at least. Like,
This is her world, and we're all living in it. Literally,
Yeah,
like
literally.
she is the creator
even just
of
from a
this
point of view that
tale.
there's the stuff that she wrote, like at a surface level, where like Natsui is like being really rude to Shannon, and Shannon's like, okay, thank you, and then Cannon's like, wow, what a bitch, and like that's like surface level, and then you like reread after like reading all of Umineko, and you're like, oh wow, that's inside her head. And then like even below that, there's like the layer that she didn't write about, and she like wasn't trying to convey, but is there nonetheless. Like, yeah. There's and then there's layers below that.
Yeah, like, I think episode 2 is such a deep dive into Sayo psychology, and it's so fascinating to read.
Yeah.
I have so many EP2 hot takes, but that's like an episode on its own.
we just have the live solo
Yeah.
episode of EP2 hot takes, just explaining to everyone.
Listen, I have a hot take about one of the later Twilights in EP2 that has blown everyone's mind that I have told it.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick the topic for the next
I think I've
for
heard
the next
this.
magical hatch lift?
Oh my gosh, I would love to.
Yeah, what if we did like what's your favorite episode, like, and defend why? Like, that could be interesting.
Oh.
That would be fun.
Oh no. Scary.
That would be a journey to figure that out.
No one say their favorite episodes then.
Oh,
I
true.
think
my favorite
so.
episode is EP9, totally.
Yeah, I think unfortunately
Oh, yeah,
I'm on
EP9,
record as what my
so
favorite
such
EP
a-
is. So like,
I like Game Master
if no one
Battler.
remembers, maybe it would work.
I would love to see people's opinions on Battler Sin, honestly. About, like, what it is, what it means. Do you think it was, like, a worthy sin, that kind of a thing?
Do you think George Shinkiri hid the letter?
Oh, damn.
That goes
Do you
along with
think
Battler's.
George stole the letter?
Do you think George deserved death?
Yeah,
Yes.
The yes is part of the question. But the question is, did George deserve death? Yes. Discuss.
The George smoking room.
Is George self-aware?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Did George deserve
I would
death?
love to
And
talk
everyone
about
says
George.
No.
I
And we just
will.
look around at each other.
Yeah.
Or no, everyone says yes, rather. And we just look at it around each other and we wonder who's the one who said no.
My phone in which I'm on this call is about to die. So
All right.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
are
we
Well,
should,
that seems like a good
now
place to wrap
45.
it up.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Everyone sign off. Bye.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.